Wow, this lighting looks. I'm behind the camera right now. This lighting is looking like beautiful. This is crazy. Let me hit the reset button. Uh, just hit start. Just hit this stopwatch. Okay, we've got a new system in place. I'm currently uploading my video from yesterday, full of, you know, failed attempts of trying to shoot the fourth episode of whatever the hell this is. Is it a podcast? Is it a YouTube series? Is it a video diary? Does it matter? My answer to all those questions is, uh-oh. See, no, that's not going to work. Is it going to work? Okay, great. Wow, we're back. We made it. I've got the stopwatch there with my phone's auto lock function turned off. I probably should also. Ugh, you guys are watching me set up today. I'm a mess. I'm all over the place. But it's okay because we're going to do this right today. No do-overs. That's kind of the attitude I'm trying to take with a lot of this stuff is like, whatever happens, happens. And whatever happens is what's supposed to happen. So here we are. Welcome back. Wow. So many things that I want to talk about. So many things I tried to talk about yesterday, but did not. Just didn't pan out yesterday. And interestingly enough, there's like a new, there's sort of a new thing that I want to get. Should I make some coffee? No, it's too late. We've already started. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. So the time to have coffee is probably over with. I wanted to talk about being a creative person. Yesterday I really tried to get into it. I really enjoy, just a recap if nobody goes and watches the last video. I wouldn't blame them. I'm probably not. I mean, I'm going to literally name it my failed attempt at filming a fourth episode. But one of the things that I was talking about yesterday when I was trying to film this was the comparison between artists and athletes, how artists are, really not held to the same standards as athletes. Well, they're held to the same standards. They are in some respects. They're that in the industry they're held to the same standards, but the process of getting to the place where any of that really matters is just so totally different, and the ability to just not really be a part of an industry or not be a part of whatever. I mean, I guess in some respects is still possible. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of really great basketball players that are just, sort of wandering through, the local community centers and parks of the world with no real team or infrastructure to be a part of. And all of that is very unfortunate. I don't know if I want to say unfortunate. I was really I feel like I had a different demeanor yesterday, which I'm unfortunately not in like the same mood that I was in yesterday, which is kind of a good thing. Um, or well, I see the drawback. I feel like yesterday I was a little bit more happy. Not to say I'm not happy today. I actually do feel good today. But I feel like some of this stuff that I'm like recapping from yesterday, just from trying to shoot it so many times and getting pretty frustrated, that I'm just a little bit less trying to like calmly walk my way through all the like nuanced little like things about what I'm trying to talk about. And I don't really know exactly how I'm gonna get to where I want to go today. Um, Being a creative person can be very difficult, especially um, for me, being somebody who is trying to not have my entire life revolve around. Well, I don't want to say because my entire life does revolve around creativity, but my entire life does not revolve around other people's perception of me necessarily. You know what I mean? And in some ways, that's like an inescapable kind of thing, because you could make the argument that like no matter what I'm doing, right, is that my success or my progress or a lot of, you know what I mean? A lot of things are determined by other people's perception of you or of me, right? And I think one of the things, and that's true, but I think that there's layers to being able to interface with the world in a way that is still humble. That's still humble, right? Still is a product of great work ethic. And I'm personally in a place where I feel like I'm trying to rebuild work ethic with rebuild, not rebuild, but build sort of from scratch a new work ethic, because the old one was fueled by so many things that are harder to sustain over the long term, and I think come with consequences that I at a certain point just don't necessarily, that aren't, you know what I mean, like really productive. And some of those things are kind of I think I mentioned like the chip on the shoulder, that sort of like aggressive ambition, and it's not like that isn't valuable on its own, but those things rarely exist in a vacuum. And they also rarely don't have like the kinds of consequences that I think, to put it like this, is like, the thing about watching and learning from people who are great at what they do is also like trying to be wise enough to avoid some of the mistakes that they make. And one of the things that I have definitely seen is that people are really okay, well, let me talk about myself, because the whole point for me is to like really talk about myself. I don't need to talk about other people. Let me talk about myself and hold myself accountable, and then get into some of the things that I'm noticing as a result of that. I definitely have had plenty of time and phases where I wanted to make sacrifices of a lot of the things that were good in life, right? Like I wanted purely to be evaluated based on my work. You know what I mean? That was all I wanted to be known for. It was all I wanted anybody to care about. And I think doing that also meant that there were no shortage of the number of friendships, family relationships, business, like even business relationships, to the point of like, you know, even though those things ideally would have been what would have like propelled me forward, that like because of where all this stuff was coming from, that any type of disagreement with anybody would simply add them into the category of people that I was gonna essentially make suffer with jealousy, right? Once I got to the place that I was so certain that I was going, or that I wanted to go. And one of the things that's very interesting about God and life is that one point or another, you are going to meet yourself in like different like forms and like these different little iterations of some of the spiritual journey. And I think we go through stuff like that as a point of reflection, but also as a point of connection with other people who maybe actually need help. And not to say everybody is like, not everybody is capable of being helped. I think that that's important to point out and to acknowledge, that not everybody is capable of being helped. Not everybody is capable of accepting help. Not everybody wants help or will admit that they want help or admit that they need help. Everybody needs some kind of assistance in their journey of life. You know what I mean? And not, how do I even say this? Not, I wouldn't say like solely from the divine, right? Like not solely God's help, but you know, in a lot of ways, God's going to help somebody through putting people in their lives to help them. Music and entertainment are very fascinating in the sense that they promote a lot of narcissistic behavior as a means for success. And the number of people that I have seen kind of like indulging in that is kind of disturbing. And the extent to which I indulged in it for a really long time is also disturbing. That's the most disturbing thing to me. It's disturbing to like be out of it and then feel it. You know what I mean? Like from other people. Because I think at a certain point, it's like a fish being in water. It's like, this is just par for the course. It's like, we're all like this. So it's like, you know, when you're still in it, or when I was still in it and I would encounter people who were like that, my thought was just, who's going to be better at this game? Like either you're going to be the more, you know what I mean? Like who's like the more conniving, manipulative, like who's the better player of this game? And that's such a drain. It's just such a drain. Even thinking about it now, I'm just like, it's tough. But one of the things, let me reset this so I can be on top of this. That I've been able to understand recently, or in the last couple years, is that I do a lot. You know, I had an encounter with a friend of mine a couple months ago, somebody who I was writing music for, producing for, that somewhere towards the end of like the rollout process, I started to realize, actually, I won't even say that because I don't know if I realized any of this stuff at the time. Actually, no, I did. I started to realize that in the same way that my music at a time and my striving for, putting forth an image of myself being a musician, being an artist, being a part of like the local like music culture and stuff like that. One of the things that I realized that other people didn't like about me during that time was that there was no amount of help that they could give me probably that felt like it was actually going to a good place. And that's a really interesting thing to think about because, externally it looks like, well, there's so many artists who it doesn't necessarily seem like they do anything that's like that great that you'd want to support. Like a lot of it is indulging in, sex, drugs, rock and roll, so to speak. And people want to support that. So like, why can't I be one of those people that does that? And that's a good question. I actually really don't know the answer. I feel like the answer is partially this because like I needed to be put into a place to be able to do this and have these types of conversations and put out this type of content and lead people into these kinds of conversations where we can like break down some of the mental processes that lead through these paths. Because I mean, also keep in mind, like a lot of people try to adopt that mentality to take that path, and most of them don't end up anywhere, right? Most of them are not. 99.9 something percent of everybody that's a musician is not successful whatsoever and never will be. That's a harsh truth, but it is what it is. And so to look at these things and say, well, maybe the answer isn't to like get better at picking the some of these like bordering like sociopathic tendon, like trying to pick up the tools of picking up the tools of broken people and trying to use them as a way to like get what you want or get, you know what I mean? Which is what I was doing. Like, I want to talk about the 48 Laws of Power for a second because I think that it's such a piece of like a common piece of like cultural or culture. I don't know even. It's just a part of like the cultural, like I guess zeitgeist would probably be the right term for it. But in a time and place where like not everybody's really reading probably as much as they used to. This is one of the books that people like go and decide to pick up, especially when they're trying to make progress in their career. And one of the things that I don't like is how, obviously there are things in there that are accurate, but one of the things that I think people, like even Robert Greene, I'm pretty sure has like come out and said himself, right? Is like, this is not about happiness or fulfillment. This is about power, dominance, control. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that you don't have to know how to be competent, right? You have to know how to be good at things. You have to know how to get things done. You have to know how to be able to work with people. You have to be able to know how to lead people. And you have to be able to know when certain things to say or do or be seen seeing or doing are not necessarily appropriate. All of that being said, one of the things that I've realized as I've gotten older is that the Bible is just as much a source of all that wisdom as this book that puts it in the context of like, how do you claw and scrape and connive your way up to, the king of to be like, I guess, just king of the hill for whatever time you can manage being that. And I say all that to say that I just had an encounter where I noticed that that's, I'm able to see myself in it. And it's hard, like, I have to figure out even right now, like, how am I going to counsel this person on sort of changing the way that they are perceiving and acting towards me, right? Like, I'm not, because I can't volunteer my creativity to be like funneled into this, like, into just a vanity project that's not necessarily going to do anybody any good. Not even the person who is initiating it. And I think that that's like one of the things where, being able to look at people and artists as, like the way that God sees us is supposedly as children, right? According to the Bible. We are all children. I was watching this clip of Philip A. Mitchell, I think is his name, from Atlanta. He's a pastor in Atlanta. He's talking about, there's nowhere in the Bible where it tells you to be an adult, right? You're supposed to maintain a childlike, like you should be teachable, leadable, you know what I mean? Have an innocence about you that allows you to be, that allows you to grow. Because if you're already grown and hardened, then it's like there's no working with that. And I understand that, right? And I'm saying all that to say that it's really difficult to watch people not want to have fun doing the things that I love doing. Like, I love music, you know what I mean? I love art. I love doing this. I love making, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell by the way that, like, I edit and do stuff, like, silly stuff. Like, I love it because it's fun, you know what I mean? I don't know, like, these videos right now, like, each of them has 20 views on it. I think the most viewed thing I have on my entire page has, like, 60 plays. I don't really care, you know what I mean? I think the point is that, like, these things are fun, and it's really hard to interact with people that are not trying to enjoy the work in any capacity other than what they feel like they're extracting from it. And I'm not really interested in being involved with anybody who's doing that, specifically because I'm trying to be less like that. So I can't indulge other people in these, like, fantasies about who they want to be and what they think their lives are going to be like. Not to be a bummer on, like, what anybody sees as, like, their dreams or anything, but it's also like, well, if if doing, if behaving that way was what everybody was supposed to be doing, it would be more obvious, right? There would be more evidence to support that people are supposed to be difficult to work with, or not enjoying the craft, or not, and I think it's unfortunate that there are, probably the people that we are fed the most from are probably a lot of the people who, also don't have. They're the people that need to be seen doing that. Like, they feel the need to be seen as these cultural icons, And I always feel like, at least maybe it's just a thing about like getting older, but it's like I definitely feel like watching people who are trying to characterize themselves in the eyes of everybody it's a weird process to watch. And it's weird to see people who are good at it do it too. You know what I mean? It's even weirder to see people who are like, nobody knows who you are and you're trying to like put off this image or like this idea of being somebody, like somebody that deserves to be seen. Like to like, it's so weird. It's like, if anybody here like watches like Tim Dillon's kind of like a genius. Like I think a few years, like a long time ago though, like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. He went on this like really great rant, really about like how people's idea of success in entertainment is so warped, because how thinking in terms of like, I deserve this and I should be, it's like two things. It's like the messed up thing is that even if you did deserve it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would get it. And that's kind of messed up. But if everybody around you that's ever seen you isn't really championing the idea that you deserve something, then doesn't that kind of take away from the validity of the assertion that you deserve something? Like, isn't that like, I deserve to, like, if I said I deserve to be the number one self-filming YouTube, like whatever, I deserve to be the number one YouTuber, number one podcast, like whatever, right? I deserve to be the number one thing up there with the, like I can say that, but would like, and not with any of the manifesting power of the tongue, all that, like fine, I understand, those are real. That being said, it wouldn't still take some type of consensus by the broader population, right? The people who are a part of the audience. Like, that's a collaborative effort to make something like that happen. That's not just a me imposing this idea of who I am and who I think I am and think I should be on people unsuccessfully, and then feeling like something different should have happened. Like, at least if you're going to play a role, then play the role well, right? A lot of the stuff that's been happening, hold on, I got to reset. Even as a result, turn the brightness back up. Right, but like as a result of all the stuff with like Drake and Kendrick, right? I've been talking about this for months because I think it's such a great example of like a lot of different things in entertainment and how people see themselves and carry themselves when they want to occupy high levels of entertainment is, it, because let's say that once you get past like all of the trying to warn somebody of the consequences of living a double life, right? Of like if you want people to think that you're this thing, right? Like that's already got plenty of problems, right? With a thought process like that. Like you want people to think that you are something that you're not. That's an issue already. But if you're gonna do that, could you at least sell it? Like sell it for real? Like, and if you can't do that, then you should do something else. And like this is all coming from a place of personal experience, by the way. I don't want anybody to think I'm being a hypocrite. This is coming from a place of um, I really wanted people to think that I was somebody and something that I wasn't. Like, that doesn't mean that I'm not talented, right? That doesn't mean that I um, don't deserve some, like, I haven't worked for some type of opportunity, right? But all of my opportunities now come from being like my authentic self and saying no to things that are not right for me and who I am and how I behave, like how I am, how my personality is, the things that I do and don't like. Like those are all factors. And like the other version of that is like doing whatever, like accepting whatever you have to accept or being whoever you would have to be able to be seen as a person that is what? Like fill in the blank. Is just love, is just seen and loved from afar. And like one of the things that is really like striking to me is that that can only come from a place of being dissatisfied with the love that you're receiving up close. Like it's not good enough. It's not good enough to be these relationships with these people around me are not good enough. So um, I need to have fake, like not fake. I hate. It's not a great. Um, but I need to have a more shallow connection with millions of people, as opposed to being able to maintain these deep, strong connections with 10 people. I really need to branch out and do that instead. It's like, but if you can't do one, you can't do the other. Because the foundation for everything is still, at the end of the day, is always going to come back to being character. It's still going to come back to being whether, you know what I mean? Like one of the things that I read is just like the way that somebody does one thing is how they do everything. And I don't know if I've said that on here before, but I find myself saying it much more frequently because of how, as I get older, it's just glaringly obvious. Like that is the truth. How somebody does one thing is how they do everything. And even seeing that, people who have the proclivity to take advantage of others, um, are not compartmentalizing that into one area of their life. Does that make sense? That's not being reserved for just a particular group of people. That's for everybody. Like for me, my thing is probably um, you know what I'm doing now is really easy because this is what I'm doing all the time. This is just a separate instance of me talking deeply and intricately about things that I like to talk about. But like, make no mistake, everything that I'm saying right now is uh, like recurring version of things that I've been saying and been having conversations about for a long time with a lot of different people. You know what I mean? And my lack of consistency in doing it, or whatever consistency I have, right? And like the way that I do it, like I've had this pattern in my life of starting something and being consistent, or starting something and being really intense and then losing consistency. Like I've had that pattern for a long time. And so that's probably going to exhibit itself here too. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like this whole process is to try and work on that. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that I'm like not the person that's done that a bunch of times and in a bunch of different areas of my life. Like I've done it with music, I've done it with people, relationships, with work, with, you know what I mean? Things like that. And I'm like, I understand that that's a character flaw. You know what I mean? And I'm saying all of that to say that when I see these things in other people, I also understand. I'm like, oh, when people are like, have like very leverage oriented mentalities. That makes sense. Like they're always thinking about what they can get, what they can give so that they can get. That it's hard for me to watch it in one place and assume that it's not going to come around to that I'm safe. Just like in the same way that, you know, I realized a couple of years ago that when, you know, if you see somebody talking badly about someone behind their back and not from a place of genuine like concern for their well-being, but in like a gossipy, mean kind of way, that even if you're a witness to this particular instance, like when you're not around, you're probably one of the people that's getting gossiped about, or somebody's talking all that stuff behind your back about you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just a very weird thing trying to navigate the creative space as somebody who is also trying to do everything without a specific like desire. You know what I mean? And like the only things that I desire are like increased like discipline and enthusiasm for creativity within myself. You know what I mean? But and I'm working on wanting less from other people. You know what I mean? Like somebody came up to me a few days ago after church. We went to a friend of mine's house. He was like, they were making food. They were just having like a little kickback. And this girl came up to me. She's like, yo, I watched some of your videos. I like the last one. I watched the entire thing. And she was like, these are dope. Like, keep doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I really liked it. And I was like, so like, wow, like that felt really, really, really good to hear that and to see it, because like I'm a little bit detached from, I think, receiving and internalizing like praise and compliments. But in a way, I feel like that's also a good thing, because I don't want to do things just for the expectation that that's what I'm going to receive in return. I want to do them because I feel like this is like a good thing to do for me. Like I like to talk. I love to, if there's people that like to listen to the things that I'm talking about, or people who have been in any of these situations, like I don't know what part of what I was talking about that girl in particular really gravitated to. Like she goes to church with me, so she probably, you know, heard some of the stuff about like, well, how do we have conversations about you know, our faith out in the world where people are not necessarily deep in it the way that, you know, the regular churchgoer, not even necessarily just regular churchgoer, but people who are very involved with their church are deep in their faith. Like, you know, that there's probably some of that she gravitated to and was like, yeah, like this is something that I have thought about, and I kind of agree with this. Like, I don't really know. And that's not to say that it's like, at some point I might have to like pick a lane, or I might have to take a step back and try and actually understand what my lane is, if it's just going to be like talking about these different things. But I noticed that a lot of the different things that I'm talking about revolve around like character development, honesty, um not even, I don't even want to say honesty for real. Like I want to say um yeah, just like character development. Like my character, you know what I mean? Like really just putting out some of the things that I like, talking about the things that I notice, um, and the things that kind of like concern me about myself, and the things that I'm encountering in a place where I'm trying to work on myself. And I don't know, um, I can't try to, like what I was saying before. This is not something that I even feel like I'm in I'm in a position to, or want to get in the position to, like try and extract, something that I like, oh, I really want this to mean that I'm gonna get to, like there are things that I would love to do. Like I think it would be really cool to like go at some point. I could maybe like sit down with, like, I love the stuff that like Chris Williamson does. I love the stuff that like, I like Joe Rogan. I like Jordan Peterson. I like Tim Dillon. It'd be really cool to be able to like talk to these guys face to face. You know what I mean? Or just even have a conversation, or, whatever. But it's like, compared to my journey with music, the starvation for acknowledgement is not even, it's just not there. You know what I mean? Like how it was when I was in music. Like all I wanted was for people to see me and like me, or at least treat me like they liked me, or at least, or be afraid of not liking me because it would be, you know what I mean? It's like, it was like a really weird, it's just like, just, I don't know. Like, I don't even know. Like, I think back, I'm like, what? I don't know how I landed in some of the thought processes that used to like really plague my mind and my behavior. Um, but it is what it is, I feel like I'm getting into a place where I'm realizing how important full relationships are. Like a full, like full, like they're full, like they are, like they are. I don't really know a better way to say it. Like a full relationship, like a full friendship, like a fully present heart, and spirit in the connection. I don't want anything from you. I just like being around you. You know what I mean? I don't need anything from you. I just like being around you. You know? And like maybe it's like the things that I need are not necessarily for me to be pursuing, right? I think that that's like one of the things that I've learned, um, even in my journey in my faith, is like, some of the things that my bad, stop, reset. Some of the things that I have really needed, I've only been able to get them once I stopped pursuing what I wanted, like what I thought that I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, God knows what I need. God knows what I want. God knows the difference between what I need and what I want. And He knows the divide between them is also something that's probably like not like, you know what I mean? Like I think my voice just cracked. I'm so embarrassed. I really hope nobody heard that. um, my point that I'm trying to make is that thinking about the need, like the need for um like a genuine and like attentive love can manifest as a desire for worship and adoration by millions. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the like because the unfortunate thing about both wants and needs is that they are in many cases from a place of lack, right? And a lot of the things that we need as people are things that can be voids or like deficiencies that were left by traumatic experiences in our past. And our own idea of how to satiate the pain that those have left us with is different from what we need in order to heal the wounds that are causing that pain. Um, and it's really hard to communicate this stuff to people in a way that they are receptive to, without being like, I'm not anybody's therapist. You know what I mean? Like, people talk to me sometimes like I'm their therapist, and people, tell me about their problems and their experience. Like, a lot of that stuff, like, that's kind of just like a naturally occurring thing that I've noticed happening in my life. And do I want to go? I'm about to be 30. Do I want to go through 7 years of school to be able to be a therapist? And like, even in like the context of like therapy, it sometimes also seems like you can't really tell anybody what to do. I'm like, and I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but sometimes you got to tell somebody what to do. Like, you got to tell, like, hey, stop doing that. You got to stop doing that. That's that. Me personally, I feel like that's a fully appropriate thing to tell somebody sometimes. Like, hey, dude, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop saying stuff like that. You got to stop treating people like that. You got to stop looking at situations like that. I've had to encounter a lot of those things myself. I've had to look in the mirror and tell a lot of those things to myself. You know what I mean? I've had to be told embarrassingly humiliating situations by other people to stop doing certain things and stop behaving in certain ways. And like, yes, it's uncomfortable. It's not fun. And a lot of times I was in a position where I couldn't hear it. You know what I mean? Because it felt like I was being attacked. And essentially, like, I mean, kind of, not really though. You know what I mean? People being like, yeah, you, like, no, like, I don't like that about you. And like the natural response is like, F you. Like, who cares what you like? Like, who are you? You know? But that's not really fair, because we all have to share this world, like this life. You know what I mean? It's not anybody, like, it's not like none of us asked to be in each other's lives for real. You know what I mean? I didn't ask to be born at this time around you people. And you guys didn't ask to be born in a time where I'm running rampant. You know what I mean? Do it when I'm doing. So it's like, how do we like find the middle ground of like, being able to smooth each other out. You know what I mean? Smooth each other's like rough edges. And that can only be done, I feel like, with a desire to grow, right? And a desire to a lot of things can be characterized as by whether or not people want to help themselves or whether they want to help other people. And I have really, really noticed that those two mindsets and types of character can't coexist very easily at all. And that when they have to, that there's a lot of turbulence that comes as like a result of trying to get those to work together, because there's people that are always trying to get something for themselves, and there's people that are always trying to do things for other people. And I think I've like realized like I'm really the kind of person that like I'm always trying to do things for other people. Um, and but I wasn't always like that. You know what I mean? Like I have had to do a lot of work to be able to put down a lot of the things that were like very, you know, self-centered. And and I haven't I haven't really encountered the step back. I don't know how to get somebody else to want to do that. You know, other than to just be honest about the changes that I've made and some of the effects that it's had on my life, that I feel like are really profound, you know what I mean, and have been very important for not just for me, but like for the people around me. And there's still things that I have to work on, you know what I mean? There's still things that I have to try and take my ego out of. It's really hard because it's like you know spend 15, 20 years thinking about how you're gonna get what you want. It's like really hard to undo that, you know? And maybe there's like an element, maybe it's never fully undone, you know what I mean? It's probably just constant, like a constant process, but I don't know. I'm feeling really like I'm honestly feeling kind of like sleepy and like I don't know, maybe I need like water or something. So I'm gonna pause this, or I might just cut it right now and film another one. I'm just glad I was able to get it to go all the way through. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna pick back up on this in a little bit. One sec.